Okay. Hello, I am with Katrina Hofstetter with Cornerstone Legal, and Katrina likes to chat with us about things that we may not think of or need to know, or all sorts of things from a mom standpoint. And today we're going to talk about home purchasing and spring cleaning, and you might just spring clean your way into a new home. And Katrina, thanks for meeting with us.
Thanks for having me today.
For sure. And then when we're preparing for a new home purchase, are there any sticky situations or that potential buyers could get into from an estate plan perspective?
Yeah, there is kind of this unique situation where if you're going to buy a home from a family where maybe the loved one passed away and it was their home, if you're buying that home from either the loved one's trust or their probate estate, one of those sticky situations is that the seller's disclosures are probably going to be pretty bare bones. So that person who's in charge, the trustee or the personal representative, depends on the situation. They're not going to have personal knowledge about things like they're probably not going to have personal knowledge about, was there water in the basement, or do these appliances work, or what's the age of the roof. So I often see that the seller's disclosures are going to be they're all going to be checked off with I don't know or not available or something like that. And so you're not really going to get a true picture of all of those little details about the home and the property.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
What should potential buyers be aware of when buying a home that is for sale by owner?
Great question. One of the most common things that I hear from people is they don't understand what that process is going to look like when there's not brokers involved, and they're not quite sure whether or not a title insurance company is going to be involved, and it can still work very similar. So even if there's not a realtor or a broker involved, you can still do a for or a, you can still buy from someone who's selling themselves without a broker involved. And it's really easy to just work with a real estate attorney to pull together the documents. You can still go through a title company and get all of that information that you need. And you can either use the title company for the closing to do all of the calculations and all of those, necessary documents, or some real estate attorneys will do that as well. So you can still have the same level of formality in a process like that, even if somebody's just selling their home themselves.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting. What should new homeowners be aware of after the sale?
Yeah, so from an estate planning perspective, I think it's really important to remember that you are investing in this property, and even though it has a mortgage, you still own it. So you have the ability to protect that investment. And you can either go through traditional estate planning and possibly set up a trust, make sure that that investment has long-term protections, especially if you have minor children and you maybe want those kids to be able to continue to grow up in that home, even with a guardian. Or you could also consider putting a Ladybird deed in place once you have gone through closing and you get your deed. You can put a Ladybird deed in place so that maybe the property just goes to a specific individual if you were to pass away. And one of the common things I hear from people is they think that they don't actually own the home yet, or they don't have a deed yet because they have a mortgage. And that's not the case. Everybody gets their deed after closing. You still own it, even though you have debt on it with the mortgage, and you can change that deed in one of those two ways to protect it.
Now, for people who don't know, what is a Ladybird deed?
So a ladybird deed is it's a deed that allows you to keep the property in your name, or if it's you and a spouse in joint name, and it stays that way for your lifetimes. But then you put a beneficiary right into the deed. So it's kind of like a beneficiary designation just for property. And you can still have a mortgage, or you could do like a HELOC later. You could put a line of credit on the property. You could still sell it. You can do whatever you want with it. But if you still own the property when you pass away, then it goes to that beneficiary.
Oh, very good. Well, thanks for meeting with us today and sharing a little bit about this. If people want to learn more, we'll put your information below. And Katrina has a website, social media, very knowledgeable. And I believe you also have a podcast, correct?
I do. We have a YouTube channel for the firm. We do a podcast called Built in the 517 that the guests are other small local businesses from the 517 community.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks, Katrina.
Thank you.